Hey, Spider Nation, welcome back to another episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I'm Jonathan, webmaster of SpiderManFanRave.com, SpiderManFanRave.com. Going over there, we got some pretty cool Spider-Man articles, reviews, editorials, anything you want, you can find over there. Tonight I'm being joined by James. What's going on, James?
Oh, sorry, I had to get something for a second. Pretty good. Had a pretty good week with school and work. Not been too much to complain. Just been really super busy. That's about it.
Yes, unfortunately, it is only the two of
I have
us.
more to say, but literally, I got my first paycheck. Yay, me.
Yay,
That's
James.
about it.
Yay, James officially is one of those of us who works for a living.
Oh, now you make it sound like I'm like I've been I'm some lazy slacker. Like I never got a paycheck before, Jonathan.
Okay, that's not true. Unfortunately, it is just the two of us tonight. Jan was not able to be with us. He's doing some thing, whatever. I don't know what he does.
With his girlfriend.
He's popping tags. He's got $20 in his pocket. Anyway,
and I got an image now with Jan like literally going to a thrift store and just saying, "Wow, this vintage '90s X-Men shirt." Takes off the tag, just puts it on, just walks out of the store, and then as soon as he walks out the door, he like screams out as loud as he can, "I got away with stealing a shirt!" And then the employees are just staring at him, and he goes, "Here you go," and he just takes it off.
I could see Jan doing that. Oh man, talking about co-hosts when they're not here never ends well. It is
Hey,
just
that's our way. That's how we do it here.
What was I even going to say? Oh yeah, it is just me and James tonight. Jan and I will actually be back tomorrow night to get his opinions on the topics that we're going to discuss on this show, because ultimately James can't do tomorrow night, Jan can't do tonight. We had to compromise a little bit. Luckily enough, I'm free both nights. Luckily enough, I'm busy Sunday this week. So, yay, schedule's kind of working out, semi.
Yay,
I don't know.
John not having a life despite him being a college student.
I just said I have things to do on Sunday. Whatever.
It's a joke, John, because it's not a Friday or Saturday. Because your things to do Sunday could just be homework, for all we know, John.
I have to go to a party for someone's birthday.
Okay, if you would just ended it with party, then I would say, okay, yeah, you get your point. Turning to birthday party, now I think it's for a 5-year-old nephew or something.
No, not at all. I actually don't even have any 5-year-old nephews. The youngest nephew I have is 9 years old, and she's interesting. I will say that. What the heck were we even talking about? Oh yeah. So what are we gonna be tackling here tonight? Well, this comic right here, I think this came out this week. This comic is Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, Number 1. I apologize that.
Hey, John, I got something to ask you for a second, because I got that same comic. It's a digital copy, but I think I had a glitch or an error on it. Because the cover is Spider-Man, but when I open it up, I got an issue of Iron Man.
I opened it up and I got an issue of Batman. So maybe we just got two different things. Maybe it's one of those like self-adapting comics where the story's different every time.
Maybe.
It's entirely possible. But
I'm looking at my digital copy and I just see, okay, bodyguard, superhero pretending that his bodyguard, he's the bodyguard of his secret identity, him dating a hot chick, high tech super businessman, while employees are plotting behind his back. It's an Iron Man comic. I'm clearly reading an Iron Man comic. I don't.
All right, but we will be discussing Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, Number 1 on this episode. It's going to be the only thing that we talk about on this episode, because really it's the only thing that is even slightly noteworthy this week. So
We're not going to talk about Civil War 2 because all we know is that it's a postcard, and that's about it.
All we know is that it's a rumor that Marvel has really not officially confirmed. So as of right now, the quote-unquote Civil War 2 comic event is not even real. So we'll discuss if that turns out to be real. Maybe we'll give that a talking about. But ultimately, at this point,
my comic store, if they got that, like a week ago when it broke, when I came in, and I asked them, "Hey, did you guys get that? That postcard?" And their exact quote was, "What postcard?"
Exactly. So creative team for Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, Number 1. We got Dan Slott, writer, Giuseppe Camuncoli, penciler, Cam Smith, inker, Marte Gracia, I apologize, colorist, Alex Ross, cover artist, VC is Joe Caramagna on lettering, assistant editor Devin Lewis, editor Nick Lowe. Basic breakdown of the issue. The issue begins with Spider-Man and Mockingbird chasing the Zodiac throughout the streets of Shanghai, and Spider-Man learned to drive basically in about, well, basically he was able to just go with it, and he was able to learn very quickly how to drive because Mockingbird says, "Since when do you know how to drive?" Chalk it up to spider sense, spider reflexes, and private lessons. And it shows Peter Parker and someone else in what, I mean, I know it's like racing car suits, but it almost looks like hazmat suits. That's my first instinct. We get a very good two-page spread. I'll hold it up to the camera here. Very good two-page spread of the Spider-Mobile and Peter and Mockingbird in there. So they're chasing the Zodiac throughout the streets of Shanghai, and they manage to run them off the road while Spider-Man jumps out of the Spider-Mobile and takes the Zodiac members out pretty easily. He doesn't have too much difficulty thanks to his upgraded tech, such as his web shooters and such. And he drops a line that pretty much is very polarizing within the Spider fandom. Whatever. Craven's nipples called. They want your face back. I don't really know why that's such a big deal. I actually thought that was pretty funny. So they take out the Zodiac. Spider-Man and Mockingbird manage to work together to do that. But before the Zodiac guy can kill himself, Peter manages to, like, not really incapacitate him, but sort of neutralize him so that he can't take the poison. That way he manages to stay alive. And she says, "Oh, gosh, what is this? More of your no one dies crap?" And he's like, "No, that was an impossible goal. I know that now, but I'll never stop being who I am, Bobby. And that means I save everyone I can. Everyone." And because of the clunky dialogue, Mockingbird starts laughing her butt off and saying, "I save everyone I can. Everyone. Did you practice that in front of a mirror? Bobby, please." And so they get back to Parker Industries. Spider-Man and Mockingbird exit the vehicle, and they run into Lian Tang. I apologize if I'm not really pronouncing that name right. I'm not really familiar with the pronunciation. So they actually managed to establish that Peter Parker and Ms. Tang have actually messed around a little bit, but she doesn't know that that's Peter Parker under the mask because obviously she's mouthing off to him in a way that she would not mouth off to Peter Parker. And several other Parker Industries, at least Shanghai headquarters, executives come up to Spider-Man and ask him, "Hey, have you seen Mr. Parker? He's needed at the press conference." And so Peter changes back into his civilian identity, and he goes to the press conference to announce the Uncle Ben Foundation. Yes, now that he is basically the headmaster of his own company, he is the poor man's Tony Stark, and he's decided that he's going to use Parker Industries for good. That also means he's not going to be paying himself a good salary. He's also going to be paying himself no more than his junior executives. And it turns out after the press conference, he says, "Oh yeah, they all know I'm not Tony Stark now." And the woman says, "Oh yeah, they totally know that." "Yeah, because I announced my low salary." "No, because you had your fly down the whole time," which is something Stark would never do.
Yeah, he would. But he would do it more of a, "Hey, remember I'm going to announce this Iron Man initiative for my bodyguard Iron Man. He's so awesome. Hey, pretty lady. I see you there from Channel 6 News. Yeah, I'm Tony."
Yeah. Here's Tony.
Okay, just to clarify, people, this is a pre-demon in the bottle alcoholic, joke. I'm not saying that Tony is the most weirdest guy ever. That was just me making a joke that I could see Tony Stark, especially back in the alcoholism that he had days, doing something like that because he's the playboy. Like, just imagine Robert Downey Jr. if he played the character as drunk or high. Like, that's him in the press conference for his fly down. Tony Stark would do that, but it would be just because, "Hey, I'm Tony Stark. It's awesome. I'm cool. Everything's awesome." Where Peter Parker, it's of course, "Haha, look at you. Your fly was down. How embarrassing."
All right, but meanwhile, Peter Parker heads back out to the west coast of the United States, And we also established at this point that Hobie Brown is one of actually, I'm trying to figure out how to put this. He's a fake Spider-Man. He's a Spider-Man that he's one of a few Spider-Man that Peter has planted throughout the world to just try to keep Spidey's bad guys guessing and to keep the scent off of him as to, the fact that he may or may not be Spider-Man. And so at this point, they only have Hobie Brown and Peter Parker himself as Spider-Man, but they want to have more than one out there so that it's not too obvious, even though it's...
Yeah, I'm not Tony Stark, but yet I'm clearly doing the Rhodes thing. With, when in the 80s and stuff like that, how he would always fill in for Iron Man, sometimes for Tony, so that way they were in the same place. Yeah, remember that, Dan? Yeah, you just had a whole page, 2 pages before. I'm not Tony Stark. The whole world knows that now. Now I'm going to do something that Tony Stark did 20 years ago.
Meanwhile, Peter Parker and Johnny Jaffrey go to the wedding of Max Modell and his partner Hector. I don't know if we ever learned Hector's last name. It's been a while since I read Big Time. I will say it is nice to see the Horizon Labs group back again because looks like Grady Scraps is Max's best man, and I guess I don't know what you would call Bella Fishbomb there for Hector, but yeah, they're their main people. And so Max and Hector get married, and as a wedding gift, Peter Parker decides to give actually, let me just back up there because I completely jumbled those. I had like 3 thoughts jumbled into one there. Peter Parker has kind of set up Max and Hector as the heads of the West Coast branch of Parker Industries, and they were actually running something called the Parker Institute of Technology. Well, Peter actually decided, well, as a wedding gift, what if I make a deal with Liz Allen, who is the head of Alchemax, and Alchemax were the people who came in and basically took over Horizon Labs. And so Peter says, Liz Allen is an old friend of mine, and so I thought maybe I could get this back. And so he unleashes something. It's not the Parker Institute of Technology, it's Horizon University, and that's his wedding gift to them, which I thought was pretty nice. And just at that moment, the Zodiac arrive, and they're looking for Peter Parker because they want his WebWare watch, basically the Parker Industries version of the Apple Watch. They want Peter Parker's WebWare watch because his watch has specific access to restricted data because he's the CEO of the company. So Hobie Brown comes in as Spider-Man and tries to take the Zodiac out, and he's having a little bit of trouble with the quips and the banter because he's just not good at that stuff. He's not used to it. He manages to fight the Zodiac, but he doesn't do as well as he needs to. So Peter ultimately surrenders the watch, but not until he's encrypted it. He says, okay, we have 12 hours to, after the Zodiac leave, he says, okay, we have 12 hours to get that back before they crack it. So Hobie goes out, does what he does, and starts trying to track it down. Meanwhile, Peter meets up with Sajani again and says, Sajani, did you have anything to do with that? Peter, why would you think I had something to do with that? Cut the crap, Sajani. We both know you were in league with the Black Cat and the Ghost. You've been trying to undermine me to make this company what you want. That stops now. Understood? Yes. I'm glad we had this talk, Miss Jaffrey. And so, back in London, at the London base of Parker Industries, man, I'm getting confused with all these locations. The living brain comes along. Good afternoon, Miss Jaffrey. Would you like a tasty beverage? And so Anna Maria comes up and says, so Johnny, hi, how'd the trip to California go? Emergency meeting. Round up the senior staff, Marconi. We're pushing the nanotech project into phase 3. Now, phase 3 isn't ready. Our enemy is. We need a response team. Oh, sorry, this isn't Sam Jackson in the Avengers movie. So Anna Maria decided.
For a second, it's just the whole idea that Otto, in my opinion, not doing the perfect job of making people convinced he's Peter Parker is now going, I am C-3PO, human cyborg relation. Like he's doing like the computer thing until the spoiler at the end. So I just had to crack up and laugh. Once do you know about the spoiler? And then John reiterating what the human brain is saying. It's just so funny to imagine him like just thinking, I gotta pretend to be a robot. I just spent a year pretending to be Peter Parker. Now I'm pretending to be a robot.
Well, now that James has spoiled the last page of the recap, yes, Otto Octavius's consciousness is inside the living brain, and when Anna Maria says, I've got this, I swear, brain, ever since your last upgrade, you've gotten a little clingy. You know that, right? My apologies, Anna, my, Anna, my dear, sweet Anna. Yeah, that was, and it says, to be continued. Dun, dun, dun! Man, what note did I just hit there?
So it's kind of cool to think that Otto Octavius is not one but two Steve Ditko villains now.
Yeah, and true. And he's also got two heads because, you know, he has two heads on this last page here.
I think that's just a reflection of the eyes to show it's Otto. I don't think he actually has two heads.
I'm making a joke, James. Okay. We will move into
audio podcast. Somebody might take you seriously if they don't see the photo, John. So I'm clarifying for them.
Here's something else they won't see.
John's flicking me off for the people who are just watching the audio podcast.
We will move into some general thoughts on the issue. I'll go first. What did I think of this issue in general? I quite like this issue. I'll be quite honest with you. I mean, I know I started the podcast by saying that even though the cover showed Spider-Man, I read a Batman comic, but no, I don't think that at all. I was just saying that mainly to be humorous. I enjoyed this issue. I really did. I thought it was a really good, solid start to this arc, and to this series in general. I thought it was a really well-crafted story, and I thought it was a really fun ride for the 31 pages that we got, because we got 10 extra pages of main story this month. That's what we paid $2 extra for, because, you know, hardly anybody reads the backups. I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't. But I enjoyed the issue. I thought it was a very solid story. I liked the characterization of a lot of people. Is this what I would normally expect for a Spider-Man story? No, but I'll get into the reasons why it doesn't bother me so much as we move into a little bit more detail here. I thought that they managed to keep enough of the heart of the character and enough of Spider-Man for it to be a decent enough story. And I liked a lot of the plot elements. I liked a lot of what happens in the issue, and I thought it was overall a good read. James, what are your general thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, Number 1?
I liked it, but I'm kind of like the reverse of what John said. If I can bring up something I pull out, and this is, again, ironic enough, I made the joke about the audio podcast. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm holding up an album cover. Well, it's CD cover, but it was originally released in the 80s as an album, as a record. For Music of the Elder by Kiss. This album is famous to Kiss fans in the fact, or more infamous because it didn't sell. I mean, it still hasn't even reached gold, which is like a couple thousand copies. It's considered one of their worst albums of all time. But a lot of Kiss fans, members of the band, it's not that it's a bad album, it's just not a good Kiss album. Because after a kind of downer year with an album called Unmasked, they promised everybody, oh, we're going to go back in, go with our roots. It's going to be a really hard-hitting, heavy metal, rock and roll Kiss album. And then instead they decided to go out with this classical, contemporary, concept album about a boy going on this great journey in like a medieval battle while these mystical wizards called the Elder guide him. And it was really confusing and didn't really fit the band's image. And that's what I feel like here. It's the same thing here with Spider-Man. It's like, oh, after all this stuff, we're going to take Peter and put him here, but it just doesn't mesh well with me. It's just like, I read this and I'm reading Iron Man with Peter. It's a slight tweak that had Peter Parker's personality into it, but I'm reading Iron Man. It's like John made the joke earlier. He's like, oh, I'm the poor man. It's like Peter's the poor man Tony Stark. And now from what we hear about with Invincible Iron Man, the new volume, Tony's the poor man's Peter Parker. And it feels like Marvel is literally out of ideas that they're flip-flopping them. And that's kind of like my fears coming true. I enjoyed the comic. It's just not a good Spider-Man comic. I enjoy it as a good comic and a good Iron Man story if this was Iron Man, but it's just not a good Spider-Man story to me. And just to bring up some more of my points about it, that actually go into detail. I thought the opening is kind of great because that was always one of the things I always used to kind of think about.
when I would read Spider-Man, and you would have him like, "Oh, I can't get a job as a taxi driver. Help wanted protector. I don't know how to drive. I'm a New Yorker. I can't be a taxi driver." And it's like, wait, why wouldn't with all his agility and spider sense, you think that would actually help him, on the road? Like he should have an advantage when it comes to learning how to drive than average New Yorker, you would think. Because of his spider sense, and he actually calls that out here. He goes, "Hey, with some private classes and spider sense, I'm able to do it now."
I guess he's just like Sheldon Cooper. He can just learn magically overnight.
Yeah, but I think because it is a comic book and it is Peter Parker, I think you can let it slide. I mean, we're talking about an industry where like you would have issues of Fantastic Four and Iron Man and Ant-Man, where literally Pym and Reed, all they have to do is literally think something, and 5 minutes later they invented it.
It's like, spontaneous combustion of just our thoughts.
If I can steal a joke from another comic podcaster, it was science, and it's the same thing here.
Right.
Yeah, I do kind of enjoy that. I actually I didn't care about the quip, but everybody's making a big deal about it. The goddamn Craven nipple one. Why? It's a joke. He quips. It's Spider-Man. Move on. Trust me, there's going to be more quips after this.
For anyone who doesn't know,
focused on it to the point that everybody screen caps on every message board and forum and everything was that panel for some reason. And it's like, really? That's all you take out of this?
See, because I don't interact online with fans as much as James does, so I actually had no idea that this outrage was even there. James, can you
outrage? It's just that a lot of people are paying a lot of attention to a quip, and it's like I can pull out Renew Your Vows issues or Volume 3, Issue 18, and there's quips in there, and I don't see anybody making a big deal about them. I mean, I can't even remember on the top of my head any quips he said in Part 3 of Renew Your Vows. I can't even remember some Peter Parker quips that he actually said off the top of my head.
It's like, I remember, like, I actually thought the Craven joke was funny. I wrote that in my review on the website. I actually thought the Craven joke was funny. But I'm
not going to say it's because it was like outrage of people. How dare they make fun of Craven? Because there's always been jokes about Craven. Even when he was dead, there was jokes about Craven that Peter was using quips. Like, hey, you're a poor man's Craven and stuff like that. So I'm not going to say that people are attacking it because it's a joke about Craven or even attacking it. It's just like a lot of people focus on that joke, and I don't know why. It's a quip. It's a pun. Spider-Man does this a lot. Move on. Who cares that he made a joke about Craven, good or bad? It was a one-off joke. I didn't even find it that funny. It's like, oh, guy's a lion's head. I get it. Ha.
Joking about, getting frustrated over Spider-Man quipping is like getting frustrated over Steve Rogers being, very patriotic.
Or Tony Stark. Or Bruce Wayne being dark and brooding. You know what I mean?
It's just what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, but I like that. I like the Parker Industry stuff. Because finally, this is something I've been saying on Ranger Board, and I'll actually give credit. Like I forgot about this part even about the issue, and I'll go back about my review about the issue, and I'll even tell people. Because I remember saying this back in issue 18, and they were like, well, Peter Parker wouldn't tell out to Johnny. You're just a negative fan who takes negative shot. I like it that he finally did the thing that he should have done in issue 18. If I have any problem with that, it should have happened in 18, not volume 1. I mean, volume 4, issue 1. He finally called her out on all that bullshit, and he even called her, hey, I'm your boss. If I find out you're doing something like this to get behind my back, don't think I won't hesitate to fire you, because my ass is on the line here. It's my company. It's my name on there, not yours. You're the employee. I'm the boss. Get that straight. And I love that Peter finally, Dan Slott actually wrote a Peter Parker who was the Peter Parker before the branded era, where he would, if he saw somebody, being a dick to him, he would come back at him. I mean, he did that all the time. The Flash with Ditko, where he didn't just stand there and take Flash's insult. He would sometimes, because he wanted to be like, because it was the random, oh, I can't fight back because they'll find out my secret identity. But then other times, Flash would call him a bookworm and push him down, and Peter's right in his face and ready to punch him, like, oh, I got to hold back because I can't punch him. But he is screaming back at Flash. He's arguing back with Flash. He's standing up for himself. And you had that with him, too, with other people, like Lance Bannon in the 80s when they were rivals of the Bugle. Or even when he was in the Avengers, where him and when him and Barton, were head-to-head because he wanted to kill Green Goblin. And Peter goes, hey, he's my arch enemy, and he did all this shit to me, and even I don't want to kill him because we're the good guys. If we kill him, he wins because we're just as bad as he is.
Heck,
And
even in the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, he refuses to take a picture of Flash shoving someone's head in their lunch, and Flash beats the crap out of him, and he says, "No way, you're just a dick."
yeah, Peter stands up for himself, and this is a good example where I can go back and say, hey, Dan Slott has actually written that Peter Parker because he did it here. I'm happy because this is the complaint I had, and it's like they addressed it here. Like immediately the next part, because this is issue like 719 if you want to think about it. You're going by the old numbering systems. I don't know if you put the .1s or whatever in there, but it's like 719 or whatever it would be.
Oh,
and
my head hurts.
Yeah, but you know what I mean though. This is technically because Renew Your Vows was until we get to the backups is not connected to this at all. And now, so it's like this is the next issue. This is the next month you came into your comic shop, and this is what you get. Peter does call her out for it. He does say, "I'm your boss," and I'm happy. I got to applaud because that's something that should have happened in issue 18. He should have said what he did to her, where he's like, "Hey, if I find out you're doing this again, remember I'm the boss. Your ass is gone." I like the Max Modell thing because again, it's continuing. It's actually Slott continuing with something because the relationship between him and Max kind of went down the crapper when Max and all that shit went down when Alchemax during Superior, and to the point that you might think that Max Modell came back as a supervillain, years later to get back at Peter. But this is actually kind of cool. Peter went to his wedding and he gave him the gift of basically his company back without technically giving him his company back. But he's like, hey, I talked to Liz because we were high school friends, and I was able to convince her for your institute to be called your name, not my name, your name. And I thought that was actually pretty cool that it's basically Peter saying, finally, coming to terms with what Otto did and correcting the stuff, besides just saying out loud, he took over my body for a year to the Avengers or whoever would listen, and they go, yeah, right, or whatever. This is actually him actually taking kind of responsibility, being the Peter Parker we all know and love, saying, hey, he did all this shit in my body, so I had to fix his mistakes. I can't just yell, hey, I got mine swapped, and that solves everything. I got to actually go out there, and here's me, my bad. Here, I'm giving you back your company without really giving you back your company, but I'm giving you something that you can continue on your legacy because you and me were close friends. You're the first boss that actually was, besides Jonah, who actually gave a shit about me and actually was an actually caring boss. And I like that. And then you get to the ending where we get to Johnny. Of course, she says, yes, Mr. Parker, or yes, boss, or whatever she says. I think, is this yes, isn't it? Because I don't want to pull out my digital copy.
She's stumbling over her yes, like she's like in fear. She's one of those people. It's just like, oh yeah, they act all tough, but the moment you call them out, they show their belly the moment somebody snarls.
Well, I think it's because she never thought Peter Parker would do that to her. I thought she even thought, even with issue 18, where she calls him on and says, well, this is your fault, not mine. I think she never thought Peter would do that to her.
Yeah,
and
probably.
Peter is taking responsibility for his company, and he is being the Peter Parker that we all kind of know and love, and how he would react to the situation. I would say I did like that she almost like shocked, like, yes, sir. Like, she actually had to do it. But then 2 seconds later, you find out she's still going to do the shit she's always going to do. She's going to be super quiet about it now. And I called this. I mean, the first, after I got done reading my digital copy on my phone, I got to that last pages, and I looked at it. I immediately went into my Skype window, and I went to John, and I said, fucking called it, that Anna and Johnny, by continuing Otto's work, is going to bring them back for the day. Now, I'm going to admit, though, I'm half right, because I predicted it to be real ha-ha, they were evil all along, because that's how I would have written it, because I'm not that good of a writer. So that's my plot twist, to be ha-ha, we're evil all along. But I do kind of like it how maybe Johnny will go that way. Like I told John off the air, maybe they'll reveal, because she is kind of a bitch and she's still doing this stuff. She might go the supervillain route, and then she finds out that it's Otto that was really doing all this stuff in the company that she likes, and it's not Peter, and go down the dark side with Otto. But Anna, I kind of like that if it ends up being a situation where Anna does the stuff and she doesn't know that Otto's in the bot, and it becomes really clingy with her, and that the nanotechnology turns out the end game plan. And you can say that because Ock knew about Peter coming back because of Spider-Verse. How goddamn cool would that be if you find out that those nanobites, Plan B, was a clone body of his classic Otto Octavius body before he became the brand new day cocoon, shell of his former self. The classic look of Doc Ock. Basically what we see in the reflection in the eyes of the living brain. Like, How great would that be if we find out the nanobites, the master plan all along when they get to the final thing is, boom, Otto's back. He has a body. He downloads his memories into the body, and now he's back, and he's going to take Parker Industries because that's technically Otto Industries. I'm going to get Parker now, and then the way I think it's going to go down is Anna's going to die. And that's going to make it where Otto, maybe it's not really a villain at first. He comes back, and he has his body back, and he's really clinging and obsessed with Anna Maria because he's still Otto Octavius. But he's not going to go villain route, and then she's going to die as soon as he comes back and he tries to take control of Parker Industries and Peter's company, and then that's going to reaffirm his hatred for Spider-Man because you let her die. I gave up me being the hero to protect her so you can protect her, and you failed, and now I'm coming after you. Classic, supervillain motivation to go after the hero, and I think that's how it's going to end up going down.
Yeah. As I move into more of my detailed thoughts on this issue, I do want to bring up one kind of discussion question a bit because it's more of a thing that I want to get some. I don't want it to just be one person talking. I want to get a little bit interaction here. My biggest pro with the biggest thing I took away from this issue, and I think it's why I think it's why I was so accepting of it, because it's been documented on this podcast. I was not really in favor of the status quo before I read this issue. When we talked about the status quo when they announced it several months ago, I was saying, "Oh my gosh, this is such a ripoff of Iron Man. I'm not looking forward to this. This is going to be, this is not going to be good." This issue won me over because I was really enjoying it. I really thought it was good. And the thing is that, and this has been reaffirmed, I think, by some other people I've talked to, even though he's not in his natural environment, he's still Peter Parker. And this is still, to me, this is still the same character that we've been reading. This is still Peter Parker. This is what Peter Parker would do in this situation. Yes, he's the everyman. Yes, he's normally not supposed to be in this situation. He's a fish out of water, but even though he's a fish out of water, we're still seeing him react as Peter Parker would react, and we're still seeing, this is what this guy would do in this situation. This is how he would deal with these resources. This is how he would interact with these people. This is how he would manage this life he's been given. And I like seeing that even though he's this big CEO and that he's like this big shot, quote unquote, poor man's Tony Stark, as he likes to call himself, it really hasn't changed him much as a character. And that's what really sold me on this book is like, even though we're not in the usual setting, this is still the character that I love. And I think that's why I'm so accepting to this issue, is because even though it's not what you'd expect, it's still kind of what you'd expect. So in a way it's familiar, but it's different. I know that's an oxymoron, but still. And James, I want to get your opinion. I mean, do you kind of see where I'm coming from with that? What are your thoughts? Do you think Peter Parker was written fairly well in this issue? Do you think he was?
Yeah, I mean, I said that in my review. This is how Peter Parker would be in this situation. It's not just he gets a company and immediately they made him a conceited, arrogant asshole. I mean, he's still acting like Peter Parker. His first thoughts, even with his company, and while he is acting like Tony, to be fair, other than the Fantastic Four, that identities have been known to the world that obviously Reed having, I don't think he really had companies like Richards Enterprises, but being a famous scientist with laboratories and Baxter Building and all that stuff. Reed doesn't, but when it comes to a guy like that with a secret identity, Peter only really has Tony to look at as the blueprint. So him doing the Tony Stark things, I can kind of see. Because literally, there's nobody, he's like, okay, how do I do this? Well, Tony did this, so I guess I have to do it that way because, all right, and I'll adapt it in my own style as we come and go. And that's how I kind of feel about it. I do still kind of feel like it is just, we're going to make Peter be Tony, like the behind-the-scenes thing. Is Peter's going to be the new Tony Stark and Tony's going to be the new Peter Parker, because that's going to change everything up, and it's going to make Tony the new flagship character and everything, and it's going to bring in readers and blah, 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 blah. But in the books, at least they found a reason for where it made sense. He did not just become, it's 16 months later because, the 8-month gap in between Secret Wars and the old continuity and the new continuity or whatever it is. Whatever the timeline is now, it's not just, now he's a jerk. He's still the same Peter Parker. Like I said about the Sajani thing, this is something that he should have done there because he has done this. This is not out of character for him to say, I'm your boss. The Peter Parker of old would do this. And now I just find it super hilarious that I hope that Dan Slott or somebody in another book, if they put Spider-Man in there, especially if they know Peter's secret identity, just so they can now have Peter being like hanging out with Reed Richards and Hank Pym and Tony, and he's all like, yeah, I own my company and I'm a doctor too now. I guess I'm not the low man in the totem pole now. And they're like, you're still Peter Parker or something like that to him.
I think that would be a nice little scene there. It's just like, yep,
like, it doesn't matter. It's like, oh yeah, you're the same profession as us, but to us, you're still the teenage kid. You know, you're still Peter Parker.
Yeah, it's like we don't see you any differently. Wow, you managed to get a company.
It's no offense, but you're still you and some of the X-Men and the Human Torch. To us, you guys can become president of the United States. To us, you're still going to be those teenage kids that were making all these jokes when we went on superhero team-ups together.
Exactly. So I think that is really what I enjoyed about this first issue. One of my absolute favorite moments was the Uncle Ben Foundation announcement, because that is absolutely something I could see Peter Parker doing with the resources and the money and everything that he's got now, is honoring his Uncle Ben in just this magnificent way. And I absolutely love that scene.
Peter, the kind of guy Peter is, like, he that's a step one. Peter Parker I would even argue as like a opposite that that's not even what Peter Parker would do, in the fact that he would do more. He would announce, for people struggling with families after, a death or whatever, it's for the Uncle Ben Foundation, the Ben Parker Foundation. Oh, for this and that. Oh, my mom side of the family had cancer, so here's something that's named after my mom. Oh, I'm going to give a special institute to my college ESU, and my college girlfriend died, and we were students there together, and that's how we met. So I'm going to name this special building that I'm donating to the School for the Science Division, the Gwen Stacy Foundation. Peter Parker would do this stuff.
And didn't he already named he named a library after Gwen Stacy in JMS's run, I believe. Because I remember that it was at the end of that story with like the Mafia and 13 guys all merged into one monster. He managed to name the Gwen Stacy Memorial Library in that JMS story. I forget which issue it is. I think it's like issue 54.
I remember now, but now that you mentioned it, that rings a bell. Maybe that's why when I was mentioning the Gwen Stacy thing, it immediately popped in my head, because I'm subconsciously remember that. Because now at work and school, I'm really falling far behind the JMS articles, and I apologize to John. It's just real life gets in the way. But
culinary students.
I read that issue, so it's been a while. But yeah, that's starting to ring a bell that happened.
Yeah, I think it was like volume 2, issue 54, if I'm remembering correctly.
It's somewhere in there. Because I'm starting to remember it too. Then he had the library named after her.
Yeah, I absolutely love the Uncle Ben Foundation thing. Like I said, I like seeing the Horizon Labs group show up again. I like seeing a resolution to that, because we didn't really get a satisfying ending to the Horizon Labs group. At least I didn't think so. So it's nice to see them all patched up here. It's nice to see there's no bad blood or anything. So I did enjoy that. I said bad blood. I'm sure someone's singing Taylor Swift out there right now.
Why did she have a song called Bad Blood? Oh yeah, she did. Because my sister still sings that annoying song every once in a while.
I was gonna say, James, do I need to beat you into a wall?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. Oh, I can honestly say I never listened to a song of hers fully from start to beginning.
From start to beginning, wow.
Start to end, from beginning to end. I would never listen to a song fully by her unless it was someone like background noise on a radio or something, and I wasn't paying attention. Like, I'm just not interested in Taylor Swift.
It's all right, James.
I'm a 25-year-old guy wearing a Kiss goddamn t-shirt talking about music from the Elder. You think I'm going to be listening to Taylor Swift after we go off the air? No.
Hey, don't you go hating on Tay-Tay. Yeah, I like seeing the Horizon Labs group. I enjoyed that. Like James said, I love the scene where Peter basically says, yo, you've been undermining this company. Here's the middle finger. Don't you dare do this again.
John, I said this, in my review, and do you agree? This is something that I think we both said Peter should have done in issue 18.
I think you made your point back when we reviewed issue 18 and probably several times before or after that.
Well, that always bothered me because Peter just went, yeah, it is. It's all my fault. Parker Luck. Oh, it's all my fault. And here it is. One issue later, he's like, no, it's not. It's your fault. I find that you're doing this shit again to me, there's the door. Bye bye.
I mean, technically it's one issue later, but it's also in this continuity almost a year and a half later.
Yeah, can we talk about that for a second? Because I brought this up on another Spider-Man website because people were so confused by this. It is a 16-month gap, right? Because issue 18 ends, and then it's the 8-month gap between that and Secret Wars 1 because it's the 8-month time skip. And everything that's post Secret Wars is saying 8 months later. Now, is this 8 months later, meaning this is also happening directly after Secret Wars, and it's just 8 months after the events of the old volume, or is this 16 months later? Because we have a 30-year-old Peter Parker who's running a company who's still supposedly not goddamn old enough to be married, according to Marvel. If that's the case.
I mean, in the actual Secret Wars book by Jonathan Hickman, they say that Secret Wars is actually something that's been going on for almost a decade. So if we're going by 8 months into Secret Wars, does that entire time span take up? Because we might actually be dealing with like a 40-year-old Peter Parker here.
I don't think so, because every character, you don't see kid characters aging in the new books. I don't even think even. So yeah, I think it might be 10 years is what the new reality was, and then when everything got fixed, whatever caused it. We haven't read the final issue of the arc, so we have no fucking idea how this new universe even got started yet.
Yeah, let's deal with that.
Yeah, but if it ends with just magically erase something, and once Doom got defeated from his godlike powers, we somehow created the universe back to the way it was, and then it's 8 months later as the universe fixes itself now with these elements from different continuities now living in this one new universe. I can see that happening, and then it's 8 months later from the world rebuilding from basically the apocalypse. I think everybody called it after issue 1, and there's no other way to say it. And then characters who died there being alive because they're not technically dead because the universe was fixed and magic, Marvel, blah, 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 blah. But that's the only part I'm trying to worry that I'm focusing on is the 16-month thing. Because if it was 13 years from when you got bit to 15, that makes him 28, 29 by the time volume 3 starts. So if it's 16 months later in volume 4, he's 30 now, running a company. And yet he's still not old enough to be with Mary Jane. It's what?
He's at least 29 and a half.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? He's pushing 30 now, which is the age that Marvel freaked out about during Civil War. It's oh my God, he's on Tony's jet worrying about his bank account. He's in his 30s now, if you ask most fans, because I even thought he was in his 30s by that point in Civil War. He seemed old enough to be in 30s. And then so that's why we kind of degraded, we made sure that he was de-aged to 25. And now here we are 6 years later and he's pushing 30. Again.
Yeah, people age. It's just what happens. But I did
what they try to do to prevent it, they can't.
I did enjoy
the universe, and they just can't stop people from growing.
I did enjoy the Sajani scene. I like that a lot. I like seeing Peter stand up to her. I agree with James. I do think it's something that he would do. The ending with Doc Ock in the living brain, I had spoiled for me, unfortunately, by the internet before I read this issue. Thanks a lot, internet.
How did that happen? Because I messaged you on that Wednesday. How did it get literally you didn't go to your comic shop yet and it was already online?
No, the image was various places on the internet 24 hours before the issue came out, and people were posting it. And some sites were able to take it down just like that, but some sites weren't as quick. And so, yeah, I accidentally.
Once it's out there, it's out there. Because once people know, because once basically, even when the website confirms, other people on the forum saying, "Yeah, I was there, I saw it." You could take down the photo. It's just common knowledge now. I saw the photo before they took it down. It's clear as day. Auto's in the machine.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, internet. Yeah, I don't. I like the ending. I think it's going to be an interesting plot. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I'm intrigued to see if James's theory is going to be accurate or not. I like the fact that Aki is coming back.
Yeah.
It seems to me that they're probably going to have to do away with a little bit of the character development that he got at the end of Superior. What with him saying, you are the superior Spider-Man. They're probably going to have to do
really character development. Was it really character development? Because I know a lot of people called it out. Otto doesn't take the blame for anything. When Otto dies, he sees himself as the hero. I'm making the sacrifice by leaving Peter so you can have your body back. No. You're the evil asshole who cheat your own death, stole this 20-something-year-old guy's life, stole his identity, and fucked around with his life for a year. But now, when things get really tough, you're like, oh, I'm making the ultimate sacrifice by going away forever for the woman I love. He's still that arrogant asshole to the part. He doesn't even take blame of my bad, Peter. Sorry. It's still like, oh, I'm sacrificing my life so you can have your life back. You're welcome. It's still like he's still Otto, even at the end there, I think. So even if he does come back here and he's kind of not really a villain because he did have that character development, you can say, I think that the second, Anna dies or something like that, he's going to go classic Otto again, where he's evil, maniacal bastard.
Oh yeah, I mean they're gonna have to make Dr. Octopus, some sort of supervillain again, just for story purposes and everything. So
they're not gonna go Spider-Man 2 with him coming back, saying brilliant but lazy, and then stopping a miniature sun sinking into the water, drowning himself, making the ultimate sacrifice. They aren't gonna do that with Otto. This ain't Alfred Molina from Spider-Man 2 where he was a redeemable character at the end. This is comics Otto where he's a sick bastard.
Yeah. So yeah, I do like the cliffhanger. The only thing I really didn't think was absolutely wonderful about this issue was the first scene with Spider-Man and Mockingbird. Some of the humor in there, I mean, we were just bitching like 20 minutes ago about how the internet was overreacting to one little quip. I thought that some of the banter between Spider-Man and Mockingbird was a little bit off. It didn't quite sound like Spider-Man to me.
Why does he need her? Have they explained that yet? Why he needs a sidekick now?
Mockingbird and Spider-Man are working together because I think Mockingbird is actually Spider-Man's SHIELD liaison because Parker's making tech for SHIELD. Sorry, I had to bend down to get something off the floor. If I'm remembering correctly from the issue. Let me look back and see.
This company doesn't make weapons though, unless it's for Spider-Man. So what's his thing with SHIELD then? Just like
he's providing SHIELD tech. I think he's actually the top provider for SHIELD tech at this point. I'm looking for the actual.
That's actually would be kind of ironic. Fuck you to Tony. Tony never gets is that he would go from the second he becomes Iron Man. Hey, I'm giving up weapons. I'm not doing weapons no more. I'm changing my life around and becoming this good guy, this superhero. I'm going to be totally awesome. We're not making weapons anymore. And SHIELD's like, how dare you not make weapons? Parker Energy goes, I'll just make technology for you guys and no weapons. Okay.
That's Nick Fury for you.
Nick Fury Jr. for you. Maybe that's why he's not his daddy.
All right. But yeah, I have found the actual dialogue. It does say that Mr. Parker's liaison with SHIELD is Mockingbird. So yeah, that's why they're working together because of the.
What I mean though, are they going to explain it? Because I think it's just going to be for the first arc. But Slott makes it sound like he's going to have her be almost a regular now on. So I'm like, are they going to have her be after the first mission? She's just going to be like, hey, I'm going to pal around with you and your company for a while, or what?
Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see until we read the other issues. Yeah, there was some banter in here I didn't think fit quite right. I did like the Craven quip, but there was some other stuff in here that just didn't jive well with me. But overall, it's kind of a minor nitpick at best. I did my final point in this issue. The artwork is gorgeous. I mean, Cam McCauley, Cam Smith, Marte Gracia, absolutely gorgeous artwork from all three gentlemen. It's just absolutely fantastic. This book is gorgeous to look at. It pops right off the page. I mean, just I apologize for the audio listener. I'm holding something up to the camera. Just look at that splash page of Spider-Man right there. That's wonderful. that's great artwork. And I absolutely love the way that they color and draw the glowing eyes, the glowing.
Is he the ongoing artist like from now on?
Yeah, I think Slot said that in an interview with CBR. I think Kamikoli is going to be his primary artist on this volume.
Thank God that Ramos is gone, or not gone all the way, because Ramos might come back in for an art, especially with it still being 2 times a month. So he might come in for an arc or two. But thank God he's not like Dan Slott's, go-to artist.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that Kamikoli is going to be here full time because I love this artwork. It's absolutely gorgeous. So that's really all I have to say on the main story. I really enjoyed it. I'd give it a thumbs up. I anticipate the next issue. I think it's a solid enough start to the series. So, James, what are you thinking? Thumbs up, sideways, down, somewhere in between?
Well, just to be fair, for a story, judging it by its story elements and a story, yeah, it gets a thumb up. As a Spider-Man story, I give it.
Did he lose connection or did I lose connection? That is the question that we must always ask. I think he lost connection. Unfortunately, James just lost connection. So, but what it looks like is that James is trying to go thumbs up for writing, but thumbs sideways for Spider-Man story. So unfortunately, oh man, I don't think James has his connection anymore. He's been having internet troubles for the past 24 hours, so he may or may not be able to get back on this call. We shall see. But in the meantime, there is one other story that we will touch on in here. We're not going to hit on all of the backup stories, mainly because I actually have not read all of the backup stories. There are only a few that actually interested me. But what we will be hitting up is the backup story that seems to be taking a primary effect on the 616 continuity. And let me look up the actual title of it here. Just apologize. I don't really know why they couldn't just put the title on the actual stories themselves and the creative teams with them. I don't really know why they couldn't do that, and they had to put it all on a separate page. It gets a little bit confusing sometimes, but whatever. I think that is James rejoining the call right now. We shall see. I can't tell. His icon just came up on the screen, so we'll just see if that works. But hey, James is back. James, correct me if I'm wrong. You were going to give a thumbs up to the writing, but thumbs sideways for a Spider-Man story?
John?
Yeah?
Okay, the whole fact that John?
Yeah, I was just asking you again. You were giving a thumbs up for a story, but thumbs sideways for a Spider-Man story?
Yeah.
All right. Now
I'm just being fair. I'm not going to say thumbs up or thumbs down, and I got to be fair and clarify that, because I am in that boat where I thought it was a good story. I just don't think it's a good Spider-Man story. So I got to judge it by that.
All right, now we're going to move on to the backup story. We are only going to be covering one backup story, and it is called The Cellar by Dan Slott and Christos Gage, writer, Paco Diaz, artist, Israel Silva, colorist, VC's Joe Caramagna on lettering. This particular backup story is actually pretty important because it evidently is going to be continued in the pages of The Amazing Spider-Man. Basic summary of this story: the Ox seems to be robbing a convenience store. Meanwhile, Miles Morales comes in to stop him. Yes, Miles Morales, the Ultimate Spider-Man from the 1610 continuity, comes in the 616 continuity to take down the Ox. And basically, he manages to take him down, but he swings away and says, "The cops are coming. They've got equipment for this. Look, ma'am, I'm already late for stuff, young people. So lazy." And so he pisses off the old lady with that. So they move the Ox. They take him to a supervillain prison called. They take him to the supervillain prison. I believe it is actually called the Cellar, where they separate the superpowered criminals from the non-superpowered criminals, and the Ox gets put into a containment field that is suspiciously like the ones we saw in Renew Your Vows. And then we see. And then we see a woman who looks suspiciously like a woman we saw in Renew Your Vows. I wonder why. And
You want
so,
to get my exact opinion? When I saw the tube come down, I'm like, no. Then you saw the woman. Oh my god, it is. And then when we get to the big reveal, John, which you're going to get to next, I was like,
the Regent,
son of a bitch.
the Regent is here in Earth 616. Patience, Dr. Stillwell. This is just the
It's
start.
Earth 8. I think they clarified it's called Earth 8 now.
Whatever. Patience, Dr. Stillwell. This is just the start. I can't wait to see what other treasures these so-called heroes will bring me in the days to come. Do you see the beauty of it? The inevitability. Yes, for whatever reason, whenever I read The Regent, I hear James Spader's Ultron voice from the movie. I don't know why. I just do.
For whatever reason, when I hear the Regent's voice in my head, I just hear this really squeaky voice, like because he's like that really big guy. So I imagine like a Mike Tyson, where he's this big guy, but instead of being like really ominous and I'm the Regent, I just imagine, hi, I'm going to see what all these heroes are after. Like for some reason, I see the character because that's just how little a threat I think of him as. I did not like him in Renew Your Vows. He's the thing I hated the most about Renew Your Vows. I did not enjoy the character one bit.
And I think we'll just segue into James's thoughts on this backup. James was not happy when he saw this at all. I don't think.
Well, I said this to Johnny before the show. Because you demanded it, Renew Your Vows, one of the highest selling comic books that we had during the Secret War event. Because you demanded it, we're gonna put elements in the main book. Peter and Mary Jane, at least together as a couple? No, she's gonna be an Iron Man because we had nothing to do with her in the Spider-Man books. Well, what about Annie? No, we had nothing to do with her. Well, it was a different universe, so is it going to be an ongoing for that different universe? No, we have no plans for that. It's going to be Regent, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to be the Regent. Our idea was to bring in the Regent. Like, literally, and it was also, it was kind of obvious that once you knew that the marriage wasn't coming back, that was the element that they were going to put in, because that was the only thing that could be put in.
Yeah,
and the character, I already felt like for a badass guy who killed all the heroes, he was really easily taken down, and not, like I said, not really much of a threat. Like I never worried about the Regent at all during Renew Your Vows. And now he's in 616 where he's not going to be killing heroes unless it's a D-League, superhero from the 70s that nobody has seen since the What If in like 78 or something like that.
He's not going to take down the Avengers in one night.
Yeah, he's not going to be, super Regent that we saw there. He's going to be a guy probably thinking, oh, I'm going to take all the powers of these supervillains, and I'm going to be like this ultimate, like, human super scroll now. But so he's going to be a depowered version of a really crappy villain anyways. So what is the point? Now, if this was Regent shows up and his line of dialogue is, a Spider-Man of one world ruined my life, so now that I'm here, I'm going to make sure I ruin this Peter Parker's life, I'd be okay with that, because, okay, it's the same Regent, so I can get the revenge here. This just feels like a random villain, like, well, I'm the guy, so I had to have the same motivation, so now I'm going to do the same thing that my parallel universe thing you saw 6 months. He's going to have the same goddamn character arc. The way the line reads, I'm going to see what these heroes can really do. He's going to go after the Avengers, but the only twist is they're not going to die. They're going to probably team up with Spider-Man. They're all going to take them down.
Oh, please. Steve Rogers could handle this guy with one punch.
Steve Rogers could handle this guy, but he's an old man now.
Exactly.
That's how much of a threat I didn't see the Regent as. Like, you saw me in my review. I hardly even talked about him when we went for our episode reviews, because he was that unimportant to me. I was like, oh, yeah, Regent, is continuing his evil plan, and he's Doom now. He's coming after Doom. He revealed that. Who cares? Oh, he has a Sinister Six working for him. Who cares? That's what. Oh, he killed all the superheroes in one night. Who cares? That was how I felt about the guy.
I will say, like, I wasn't as opposed to the Regent as James was. I actually kind of enjoyed the Regent in Renew Your Vows. I wouldn't want to see the same plot done again here. I really wouldn't want to see it again because I just saw it a month ago. But, I mean, we have to see where the story goes. I enjoyed seeing Miles in this story, though. I thought he had a fun little battle,
I thought that was a cool twist because all the other backups were promoting the other books, like Spider-Verse book, Spider-Verse or Web Heroes, whatever it's called. They were promoting that. They were promoting Spider-Gwen. They were promoting 2099. You know, they're promoting. So you thought when you were getting down to his last one, okay, that's the one promoting his book. And then the twist of the region in the end, I will say that was like, it was to the point of I'm reading it. And I'm just thinking, okay, it's setting up Miles. Okay, it's setting him up that he's the teenage Peter Parker that we all know and love. Only now it's Miles doing it in this universe and not Peter. And then you get, like I said, the tube drops on him, and I go, oh no, it's not. I knew you were going to do this, but no, not now. And then I see Stillwell, and I'm like, no. And then we get to that, and I flip the page, and there's Regent. And he's like, I'm going to see how these heroes can handle me, or whatever the hell he says. And I'm like, screw you. Not at Dan Slott, not at Marvel, but screw you, Regent. God damn it. I can't even get a breather from this guy after the thing I hated the most about Renew Your Vows. He's immediately back in the book a month later.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'd give this backup probably a thumb sideways. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was just there for me. James, what would you give this backup in terms of a thumb rating?
Sideways, because the Miles Morales stuff with Ox was actually pretty good. It's just when I got to that region part, it just, God damn it.
All right, that's pretty much all James and I are going to cover with Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, Number 1. As James said, he enjoyed it as a comic. He didn't think it was a great Spider-Man comic. I thought it was a pretty solid Spider-Man story. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good start to the overall series. So that's pretty much going to wrap up our review of it. Now, Jan and I will be back tomorrow night to give Jan's thoughts on Volume 4, Number 1, because I didn't really want to have him feel left out about this. So Jan and I will be back for probably a half-hour podcast, maybe if that at all, to get Jan's thoughts on Volume 4, Number 1. And so that's going to do it for this, at least part of this week's episode. So, James, any shout-outs for the listeners before we sign off?
Let me think for a second, because shout out to the people from my class now, because I gave a link to them underneath your introduction to me to this show and AGR. So I'm giving a shout out right now to my classmates that are tuning into this. If they are, they're probably not. But if you did click on the link and you're seeing this video, shout out to you guys. Shout out to, let me think for a second, because I know there was something else I wanted to shout out to, but I can't do it. Fuck it, if next week, if I can remember what it is, I'll do it, okay? But I'm sure it's not that important if I can't remember it. So shout out to my classmates if they're seeing this. And finally, that's about it. I can't think of anybody else to shout out right now.
My shout out this week, Marvel, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Dan Slott, Giuseppe Kim, and Coley Nick Lowe, all of them. Thank you for Spider-Man. Other shout out to Brian Bendis and David Marquez for a pretty solid first issue of Invincible Iron Man. I enjoyed that. Let's see. I'll give another shout out to Captain America Sam Wilson. That's starting up next week. I'll give a shout out to that. Shout out to Scandal. We're 3 episodes into season 5. Man, I'm loving this season. Oh man, it's so good. What else? What else should I shout out to?
Shout out to The Flash, because their new season just started and it's on Netflix now. And I know if Jan was here, that would be his shout out.
Yeah, we'll throw that in there for Jan. I'll give a shout out to my friends Chris.
Oh, I remember what it was. Shout out to Naomi Scott, who got cast as the Pink Ranger in the Power Ranger reboot movie. Shout out to her.
Yeah, she's got a British accent. I like that.
Especially if she's playing Kimberly, she's not going to keep that accent. They're going to do, what they do with every you're playing an American character. They're going to make them have an American accent. You know that, right?
She needs to keep that accent. It's amazing. Shout out to my friends Chris, Jake, and Nate for the epic joke we played yesterday. They know what we're talking about. Yeah, that was
final shout out to Jan, because the scheduling got screwed up, and so now we got to do 2 episodes. So shout out to Jan, because he's not here and I can't really talk to the man in his opinion. So this is just a quick little shout out to him. Sorry, but I kind of got a life. It's Saturday night. I got a lot of busy stuff going on. Yeah, I'm a college kid. John can probably relate to that now. I got work, I got homework that I got to start doing for all my classes this week, and I got a date. So, yeah, I'm kind of busy when it comes to doing the show on the normal weekend schedule. So, apologies to Jan that he's gonna have to do a show by himself, and then me and John do the bulk of the episode. And he's just gonna be like the fill-in extras at the end of it. He's the backup issues. Oh my God, he's Regent.
Yeah, it's like it's like James goes out and does culinary stuff. Usually, my weekend activities involve going to see concerts and stuff. Or like,
I'm going on a date, and I got work in a factory, dude. It's not like I'm cooking for my class on a Saturday night.
it's like usually the stuff that I go out with on weekends involves like going to see my friends in their little groups when they're playing across towns at like little coffee shops or whatever. Going to see that, or just hanging out with family and stuff in general, because I like to do that. I like to appreciate my family. But yeah, Jan, I don't really know what Jan's doing this weekend. He says he's doing some club thing tonight. I don't know what this.
I made the girlfriend joke as like an homage to an old joke from the original podcast, but Jan actually, I think he has some club thing for his school to do tonight, so that's why he's not here.
I don't know what this boy does. All right.
We don't even know if Jan's even his real name. I mean, that's the point that we are with this guy. He's literally the man of mystery to us. All we know is he likes Spider-Man, and that's about it.
No, we know he loves the X-Men and the Flash.
Okay, I'll umbrella it. He loves comic book superheroes, and that's all we know about Jan.
Yeah, but in his defense, so do we. So there's not exactly much difference.
Our other hobbies and interests. I mean, I just said I got a date tomorrow night. I'm live on the internet, and if she's watching, hey, I hope we had a fun time.
Okay, I'm going to turn this off because this just got really awkward.
How is it awkward? I'm going to say, hey, if my date Google searched me and this pops up, I'm saying, hi, I hope we're having a good time.
All right,
I'm awkward by making it dirty, John.
I'm done. I'm turning this off. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow night. I'll probably be like half asleep or something tomorrow night, but who knows? I'll see you tomorrow night. If you're listening to this on iTunes, I'll probably put some like transitional music in, and you'll just hear it immediately. But
if any case my teacher was watching this, I had a little extra like thing in the end. I apologize for the swearing because she brought up, you got to be professional in the class, but we're not in the classroom right now, so I can swear on the podcast. But so I apologize for that and the constant message of craven nipples. I apologize right now. And oh my God, I can't believe it. In all my years of being a Spider-Man fan, I would ever have to apologize for saying the words Craven's nipples.
And on that note, thank you guys for tuning in.
Craven's nipples.